Hey guys, welcome to part 6 of my survival series of tutorials, and today, like I said in the last tutorial, it's still going to be a part of sort of the infantry, but it's going to be a little bit of a side from that because it's not going to be dealing with too much of an infantry. It's going to be making a berry bush or something along those lines that you can pick the berries from, obviously add that to your infantry, and after a certain period of time that bush will then restock with the berries. Obviously when you collect the berries they're going to disappear from the bush, the tree, or whatever you're going to have, and then as I say, you can set a certain amount of time, then they'll reappear and you can do that again. And obviously that might work with when we get to do a day to night cycle and things like that, but for the sake of this we're going to make it simply, and we're just going to start off right away. So you can see in my scene here that what I've got is I have got it's called my berry bush object here, and all this is one of the plants that I've got in the pack that I've used for this entire forest. So I picked a plant which looked like it could have berries on it, say. It couldn't be anything, it could be just a cube, but for the sake of this, a visual element to how we're going to do it. So what I've got is I've got my berry bush. It's named berry bush for now, and what I've got is I have got the berries themselves. You can see here, if I click on the berries inside it, you can move them out. All they are is just a series of spheres that I made in 3ds Max and just bunched together. So as you can see, I grouped all these spheres together inside one game object, an empty game object, and I named it berries. So my berries is just an empty game object with all those spheres grouped together. I could have done that a bit a better way, but for the sake of this, you can create those in Unity by going game object, create other, and you could create a load of spheres and then just create an empty game object to group them all together. Then make your grouped berries a part of, or a child of, the berry bush. So then, because we're going to reference it and get rid of them as we're going through. And then what you need to make sure is that your berry bush has a box collider around it, so then we'll be able to do the raycast so we can detect the collision, so we can then do the things that we want to do with the item that we've got. So what I've done is that I've even made a prefab, so I've just prefabbed the bush so I could drag it out as many times as I want. So we'll stick with this for now. So we've got our berry bush with the berries as a child, and then we've put a collider all the way around the actual original object that we've got. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by writing a new script. We're going to start off by writing a new JavaScript, and then what we're going to do is we're going to call this bush controller, and then we're going to open that up in Mod Develop, and once we've opened that up we'll delete the two beginning functions, and what we'll start by writing is variable berries taken as type boolean equal to false. Then I'll have a variable called berries as type game object. Then I'll have another variable called berry timer as type float equal to 5.0. Just for now we're going to have 5 seconds. Then below there we're going to write function update with 2 brackets, then 2 curly brackets below, and we're going to say that if berries taken is equal to true, then we'll close it up and add 2 curly brackets below, and say that berries dot active equals false. So that means it'll be able to turn off the actual full game, or the game object or component, which is what we're going to set to berries. Then we're going to say berry timer minus equals time dot delta time, so it's going to count down from our 5 seconds that we've set. Then we're going to say this dot game object dot tag is equal to, so 1 equals, and then in quotes we're going to put bush empty, and then add a semicolon, because what we want to do is change the tag so we can reference it in our raycast script. So obviously we don't want to keep on picking up berries if the bush is empty, so we're going to change the tag to easily distinguish between the two. Then we're going to say that if berry timer is less than or equal to 0, then we'll add 2 curly brackets below. Then we'll say berries.active equals true. Then we'll say berries taken is equal to false. Then we'll say this dot game object dot tag is equal to bush full, and those are in quotes again. And one other thing, we're going to need to reset the timer again so it's as it was at the beginning. We'll put berry timer is equal to 5. So we just need to match it up with the initial timer that we had, because we want to set it back to its initial amount. So that's it for the bush controller. So what it'll do is, if we have collected the berries, then we're going to turn the actual berries off so we obviously can't see them. Then start making the timer go down, changing the tag, and then when the timer's hit 0, so when we want the berries to then respawn, it could be 100 seconds, it could be whenever, it could be when we've done a full cycle of the game world. But for the sake of this, we're just going to say that when it's equal to 0, we're going to just reset everything back to how it was normally. So one thing you want to do is, when you go back into Unity, if you go to your berry bush that we've got the collider on, you need to make sure that you've got 2 tags, one as bush full and one as bush empty, because if you don't have them tagged already, it'll never be able to create a new one. It has to be already available to switch, so you make sure that it's on bush full to begin with. Then what we'll do is we'll add the berry bush script, or the bush controller script, to our bush that we've got, and then we'll add, it'll have an empty sort of space, another object, so we'll add the berries in there. So then that's ready to go. Now we'll open up our raycast collect script, and then in here the last thing we talked about was a coconut. So what we're going to do is go all the way back up to the top again, and then we're going to add in 2 new variables right at the top, and it's going to be one variable called bush, and have that as type game object, then another variable called player, and have that as type game object as well. And then we'll go down to underneath where we're talking about with coconut, and on the curly bracket which isn't encapsulating the if statement, so we'll just go just below there. Then what we're going to do is copy this entire if statement for the coconut, and we're going to paste it in, because where we're going to use this to be our thing that we find the bush with. So we're going to change the tag from coconut to bush full, so it's only when bush is full we're going to look for that tag. Then we're going to make sure that GUI shows true. Then what we're going to do is that, seeing as though we might have multiple berry bushes all around our world, we don't want to have to set them hard coded in the script. So what I'm going to say is, like we created before, we created a bush variable which we're going to fill now. So we're going to say if bush equals hit.collider.gameObject. So what that means is that for every ray that we cast, we're going to set bush equal to the game object that we find if we found bush full. So it's just going to find whatever game object our ray has hit which has this tag, so which means we'll be able to find every single bush no matter how many we have in our scene. So then it will say that if input is E, then we'll keep GUI false as show GUI as false. We'll delete the other 2 things in the script there. We'll tab across, and then we're going to write bush.getComponent, and all our bushes are going to have exactly the same component on bush controller dot berries taken equals true. So that means it's setting our other script, so berries taken, it's going to set it to true every time that we press E if the bush is full. We're going to make sure that GUI is false there, so we don't want to see it when we've collected it. Then we want to say player.getComponent, open brackets, inventory, close the brackets, and for the sake of this tutorial I'm just going to say cooked fish plus equals 1. So that's just going to add 1 to cooked fish. Obviously it's not a cooked fish, but it doesn't really matter because it's merely a name that we're using. So what we're going to do is we'll make sure that the raycast collect is on our main camera, so you can see it here. What we want to do is we want to add player to that script, so we'll just drag our player in. For bush, you want to leave that because that's going to find it whenever we actually do something. So my berry bush here has the object. What we'll do is we'll duplicate this a couple of times, so I'll put it there and I'll put it here. Then what you'll see is when I start my game, you'll notice that it says pickup on the bush. You'll notice that when I bring up the inventory with I, cooked fish is equal to 3. Then when I press E to pick up, when I press I again, you'll notice cooked fish is now equal to 4. And obviously I can press this again, you see it appeared after the 5 seconds, and we will have 5, press it again, we'll have 6. I can press it as many times as I want and we'll never get any more until it's back. And we can go over to our other plant, collect some, we've got 7, go over to the other plant, collect some, we've got 8. Obviously they're going to come back every second, so we can have a constant sort of game mechanic where we can always collect new berries. And obviously you want the timer to be a little bit slower because we have berry bushes that produce the berries very, very quickly. So that's just the entirety of making yourself a respawning berry bush in a way with your objects and with adding to what we've already got. So hopefully that helped everybody out, and that was what some people have been looking for. So thanks very much for watching. As ever, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Cheers.